Now we're going to move into the most exciting part of the conference, which we're all very excited about. As Ram Madhavji likes to say, it's the pinnacle of our conference, and in about a couple of minutes, we'll take you into the metaverse itself. We've been talking about what it looks like, what we are going to look like in it, but now we're going to experience it. So I encourage you to hold your seats tight, and we'll move into the session quickly. Thank you.
I would like to welcome Mr. Ajith Mohan, Vice President and Managing Director of Meta India, to take us through it.
My name is Ajith Mohan, and I lead the company that was formerly known as Facebook, now Meta. I grew up in a small town near Cochin, not too far from here. Spent a bunch of years in Southeast Asia and North America before coming back home about 14 years ago. But today is not about my story. Today is an articulation of what we as a company see in the evolution of the metaverse, the central topic of this conclave, and quite importantly, India's role in shaping it. And I want to thank Ram Madhavji and Shaurya and the leadership of the India Foundation for inviting me and inviting my team to make this presentation here. Before I start explaining what the metaverse is, I thought it would be helpful to play a video where the founder and CEO of the company, Mark Zuckerberg, outlines the vision he described for what the metaverse could be 10 years from now.
Technology that needs to be invented, as well as how we're going to all do this together. The next platform and medium will be even more immersive.
Like a shop.
Some call it skill.
Keep talking.
An embodied internet where you're in the experience, not just looking at it. And we call this the metaverse. The metaverse. The metaverse. Online today, connecting socially, entertainment, games, work, is going to be more natural and vivid.
Whoa, that's a little too realistic.
Now this is more my style. We believe the metaverse will be the successor to the mobile internet. And you're going to be able to do almost anything you can imagine.
All right, perfect.
Oh, hey, Mark. Hey, what's going on?
Hi.
Mark. What's up, Mark?
This place is amazing.
The feeling of presence. This is the defining quality of the metaverse. You're going to really feel like you're there with other people. You'll see their facial expressions, you'll see their body language, maybe figure out if they're actually holding a winning hand. All the subtle ways that we communicate that today's technology can't quite deliver.
I knew you were bluffing.
Avatars will be as common as profile pictures today, but instead of a static image, they're going to be living 3D representations of you. Beyond avatars, there is your home space. Your home is your personal space from which you can teleport to anywhere you want.
Koi fish that fly? That's new.
This is wild.
The metaverse isn't something we're building so much as it's something we're building for.
Across the industry, we need to bring that same imagination and commitment to building for interoperability, openness, safety, and privacy, as we do for all the other product aspects of the metaverse. These have to be fundamental building blocks, just like the other software and experiences that we've been talking about. Our hope, though, is that if we all work at it, then within the next decade, the metaverse will reach 1 billion people, host hundreds of billions of dollars of digital commerce, and support jobs for millions of creators and developers. We are fully committed to this. It is the next chapter of our work, and we believe for the internet overall. beyond the constraints of screens, beyond the limits of distance and physics, beyond any one company, and that will be made by all of us. And I'm just incredibly energized to be on this journey with all of you.
That was fun.
Good job, Mark.
That's the vision of what this world will be 10 years from now. But let's step back to where we are and really get to the heart of what really is the metaverse. And the best way to describe this is the idea of a more embodied, immersive internet. If you think about the evolution of the internet and where we are today, where we spend a lot of time on the mobile screen, the internet is something that we stare at. We look at the internet. Imagine the metaverse as being one in which you will be in it. And that's at the heart of the idea that we are building for, that there is going to be all of these virtual spaces where even if you're not in the same room as someone else, you still have the sense of being present in the same space. Whether you do that for working, whether you do that for getting entertained together, or whether you do that to buy something. Fundamentally, the idea is of an immersive internet where you're in it and you experience everything around it. And I think it's important to articulate that we're at the beginning of this journey. That vision that you saw outlined in that video is still far away. It could take us 10 years to build it. It could happen in a few years from now. But we are only at the beginning of that journey. And in that context, it's important to describe how it'll be different from the current version of the internet. Because we are convinced that this is the evolution of the internet. This is the next version of the internet. And three things will stand out about this. One is the idea of presence. I think we have all observed, even in the last 2 years, where we were forced to work from home, we did not connect with a lot of our friends and family in person. Being on a Zoom call allowed us to be connected to each other. But that was still 2D. Imagine if the technology can solve for the idea that you will feel that you're in the same room with someone else, even though they're physically millions of miles apart. The second is the idea of persistence and continuity. All of this makes sense only if you can naturally transition from the real world to the metaverse and back. And therefore, a lot of our work is in building technologies. And the video that you're seeing here is the idea of two people playing table tennis. They're both in two different physical contexts, but to them, it feels like they're playing a single match. So how do you ensure that there is continuity in your experience, connecting the physical and the virtual world? And the last one, I think, is an important one. How do we make it interoperable? And there are two elements of interoperability. One is, even in a world where we have 1 billion people on the metaverse in 10 years from now, there's still going to be a lot of people who are still on 2D surfaces, who are still going to be using a laptop or a mobile. How do we make sure that the experience is inclusive, that they're connected to this environment, even though they may not have a headset or a device that connects them to this 3D world? The second idea of interoperability is equally important. This is not building the metaverse. This is not about the Apple metaverse or the Google metaverse. This is to make sure that it's truly interoperable across platforms, across the different pursuits of individual private companies, so that the spaces, as a consumer, you can move from one space to another without losing things that you've acquired in one platform when you move to the other. And for those of you who have been following the mobile version of the internet, you instantly know that this idea is powerful. The idea is that no one company can build a walled garden. And therefore, we don't believe that we are building the metaverse. We believe we are building different elements that will become the metaverse, but it will be built by other companies. It'll be built by creators. It'll be built by developers in India. It'll be built by startups from Bangalore. And the idea is to create a framework that allows all of them to interoperate without any artificial barriers in between. Now, the question is, therefore, what can you do differently in this metaverse? And I thought it might be helpful just to bring it alive about some of the use cases that we're already seeing come alive in the metaverse. And one of it is fitness and health. People are using the headsets to experience a fitness where they're competing with other people and making a material difference to the kind of apps that we have seen around fitness and health in the 2D world. This is an obvious one. I think we know that it's going to radically change the experience of gaming and sports. I'm a huge fan of cricket. The role that I had before Meta was to build Hotstar. And imagine the experience of being inside a stadium, not seeing the match from afar. I think for those of you who have been in a cricket stadium, very often the experience of watching it on a mobile screen or a television screen is actually much better. But imagine what it means if you can place yourself anywhere in the stadium, including on the pitch, and be able to have an immersive version of watching cricket like a player would watch cricket. That's the future that we are envisioning. And of course, one of the areas where we've already seen improvement is around the future of work. Even in a world where people are comfortable going remote, where they're comfortable living in different cities around the world, people still crave community. People still crave the feeling of being present with other team members. And one of the platforms we're building is Horizon Workrooms, where you go into a virtual space and you have the presence that you're in the space experiencing the same physical environment with someone. And one of the things we're going to try and do, if Murphy's Law doesn't kick in, if the meta laws work, is to actually show you that experience right after this presentation, where Rami and I are going to be in a virtual room and you will see what it feels like. And of course, one area where a lot of things will look different is the future of shopping. This video is playing out the visualization of a small company that makes candles. Now, when you make candles, you're selling an image of the experience around the candle. And you can do that through beautiful videos, you can do it through beautiful images. But imagine if you can feel it. If you can feel, in this case, the butterfly effect of a candle. What does it feel like to be in the space where there are butterflies flying around and it's colorful? There is no question that to build affinity and followership, to build entirely new categories, this could be a huge enabler in getting people to experience what you're selling. What is the product and service that you're selling? And we believe that this will revolutionize how commerce is conducted. Commerce has already changed in the last 15 years thanks to the internet. But imagine if you can make people experience something before they buy it. Now, the question that you will ask is, what are you guys doing to help build all of this? And we see our role in three ways. One, of course, is to help build the hardware that is needed to help the world transition from 2D and 3D. These are the headsets, the VR headsets, the AR glasses. A lot of the work that we are doing today is to try and compress all of the computing power, all of the sensors and the batteries, right down to a glass that looks like this. So imagine if this can be your portal to the 3D world. That's a lot of fundamental investment in science and research. And you will see some of that come alive today. When we do the demonstration, you will already see that you can move your hands and the avatar will move the hands in exactly the same manner. The second is we're thinking through how we can build the fundamental software blocks that will help others to create this world. And third, of course, is building toolkits that fundamentally allow other companies, other creators, other developers to build what will be different elements of what will form the metaverse, not just for India, but for the world. And we're starting to go down that by creating a fund that fundamentally allows companies and ideally startups to start experimenting with different ideas around manifestation of some of what I described. And one of the big things to call out, because a lot of this is happening in India right now. If you look at what's happened in the last 5 or 6 years, we transitioned from a country which had about 40 million people who had good access to the internet in 2016, 2017, to today more than 700 million people who have affordable, high-quality access to the internet. That set the context for all of what we have seen in the last 5 years. The emergence of different online communities, the rising role of creators. One of the stats that I want to share with you is we ran a program called Born on Instagram where we had 250,000 creators essentially getting trained on how to create content, how to monetize. 80% of them were from tier 2 and tier 3 towns. So all of the action that's happening around creators is not necessarily in metro India. It's happening across the country. And all of the changes that we're seeing in commerce, and of course, the investments that we're making around the devices and the computing platforms. So the question really in all of this is, where does India fit into this? Where does India fit into this? If you look at some of the early experimentation around this more immersive 3D world, the metaverse, the meta world, you're starting to see experiments already driven by large and small companies in India, whether that's in automotive, healthcare, retail, or even defense and space. And all of it, I'm sure, is intuitive for this audience. In a country where we are looking to massively scale up our manufacturing capacity, imagine the role that the immersive headset devices can play in simulating the assembly line. And that's just not an idea. That is already starting to happen in India. But this is an important point to make. That the opportunity in India is not just to explode all of the innovation that we are seeing out of cities like Bangalore, but it is for us to shape what the metaverse will become globally. What the metaverse will become globally. And this is probably the most powerful idea that we believe we have a role both in enabling as well as in socializing. It is that when the last version of the internet was being formed, whether you draw the timeline back to 1995 or 1999 or even 2005, when the last version of the internet was being shaped around the world, we were a fundamentally different country. We were not in a position to shape the last version of the internet. We were not in a position really to shape the mobile internet. Because even 5 years ago, there weren't enough people online. That is dramatically different today. That is dramatically different today. Whether it is the 700 million people who are online, whether it is the rise of the entrepreneurial class, so much from this city, Bangalore, or whether it's the access to capital. But fundamentally, if you look at the tech capacity in India today, the engineers and the product managers and the designers, this is our opportunity to shape what the internet would become. The metaverse is the next version of the internet. And more than any other country, we have the opportunity to shape it. This is our moment. And just to give you a sense of what the opportunity is, and this is our local opportunity. We did some work that said, even if the adoption over the next 10 years follows a regular curve that we saw for the last version of the internet, it will contribute at least 240 billion to India's economy. But I think this is the baseline. This is table stake. Our opportunity is much larger than this. And it's easy for me, being rooted in India to make the statement. But I thought I should share that the point of view that India can shape the metaverse comes from Mark himself. This is what he said, that this is an opportunity for India to shape the future of the metaverse. And I think that is the big idea here. That is the big idea that we are working towards. That's the big idea when we partner with governments around the country, in Delhi and other state governments. That's the idea behind many of the partnerships we have done with CBSE, as well as local startups. The idea that this future that can happen around the next 10 years, and by the way, we benefit from it. We benefit from India shaping this future, that for many reasons, it's India's moment. It is India's moment to grab and shape the next version of the metaverse. Thank you.